Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Bonner. I'm going to be your instructor this semester for CNI 4403, Approaches to Teaching Mathematics. I'm a professor in the Department of Interdisciplinary Learning and Teaching, and I'm also an associate dean for the college. But I study math education. I do a lot of work in equity and things like that. So lots of experience in classroom teaching, and I'm very thrilled to have you in class this semester. This class is always a really fun one. We get to do a lot of playing around with ideas about how to teach math and make it engaging for students, how to engage with families, how to lesson plan, all that good stuff. So everything from kind of the nuts and bolts of teaching math to the exciting creative parts that you can engage in with your students. The purpose of today's video is going to just be to introduce myself and give a very general and brief overview of the course. We're going to get much more into the details as we meet, but I just wanted to kind of give you a short introduction before we meet on Monday, next Monday. So you'll see this particular slide, my Bitmoji classroom, on many of the slide decks that I share with you. And there are some links kind of hidden throughout here that'll give you a little bit more insight into who I am and things, but I'll let you kind of explore those as you want to. So today, again, we're just going to do a quick intro to class, and I'm going to share with you some general info. And then when we meet on Monday, you can bring your questions. So the three big ideas that we're going to be talking about throughout the course and that you'll see kind of underlie everything that we do, and I'm going to start on the right here. The big thing is developing content and pedagogical knowledge and expertise. So that means getting you super duper comfortable with the math content. So everything from things we learned in kindergarten that are so rote to us that it's kind of hard to imagine teaching them to things that occur in later elementary school that sometimes if we don't use them all the time, fractions and decimals and things like that, we get a little bit uncomfortable. So how to get really comfortable with that and teach it in ways that are engaging to students. And the more strong of a hold we have on the content, the more creative we can be with our teaching. So that'll be one big thing that we're thinking about throughout the semester. And that means we're going to be engaging in some problem solving activities ourselves and playing with some content ideas too. So expect that. Also, part of that is exercising rights to learn. So we'll talk more about this the first day of class, but thinking about how can we create an environment where it's safe for students to share things that make sense to them, to solve things in a way that makes sense to them, and to discuss with students. So it's almost like creating a safe, vulnerable environment because through making mistakes, we will learn more. Then also collaborating and learning from families and communities. So how can we take what students are doing every day or what they're seeing every day and incorporate that into our curriculum? A lot of times math curriculum is written in one way and it's not relevant to everyone. So how can we just take what we what we already are using and make it more relevant for our particular students? And that won't look the same for any two classrooms. So pretty interesting stuff here. But these are kind of the things that are going to underlie our coursework. The assignments that you have will all be focused on developing these things. So here's the structure of class. And again, this is like super general. So if you have questions about assignments and things, we can go over those as they come up. But I just wanted to let you know like what to expect in terms of your weekly kind of like the way things flow. So each week you're going to have some before class activities to prepare for the in-class discussions. Those before class activities are going to include videos like this one. I'm going to try to keep them short, but they're mainly going to be a review of the content and some kind of maybe refining some things that you're reading about in the readings. And then you'll also have, of course, some readings for that week. So those will include things from the Van de Waal book, which you'll see in the syllabus. And there's also an intentional talk book that we'll use that's available to you through the library. So those will be things that you'll need to complete before class. That means that in class, we'll be able to have these rich discussions and problem solving activity type sessions where we can dig deeper a little bit. So one thing is these talk about it presentations. So each of you is going to pair up and you'll sign up for a week to take the lead on leading us through a discussion about that week's reading. So that will include a couple of different things that are outlined in the syllabus, but just know you'll be responsible for that. Once throughout the semester, we'll talk about it a lot before you actually have to implement, and you'll be able to sign up for a day. But that'll be kind of the first chunk of time for many of our class sessions. We'll often engage in some problem solving activities. So I might have a task in particular that's not in the reading that I really want to model for you that I think is, you know, an exciting way to get students thinking about the content. So something like that, that's, trying to get the brain juices flowing in terms of math and math instruction. We'll also have plenty of time to answer questions about assignments. So I'm not going to pop things on you and not have talked about them before. I will also try to record little videos you can come back to about each assignment, if that's of interest to the class. And then lastly, we'll work on the nuts and bolts of teaching. So how do we write lesson plans? How do we analyze student work? That kind of thing will happen not only in the course of our course, but also in the course of your assignments. So that's the general overview there. I wanted to also share with you these slides to keep as classroom resources so you can use these in class. They'll be linked in like every slide deck that I share with you pretty much. But these are nice for when you're thinking through your lessons and how you're going to develop things, not only for us, but for your classroom. So I just wanted to make sure and throw these out there too as part of my intro. So this is Catherine Ye. She developed this whole series of math manipulatives during COVID. So these are online geo boards. This is a clock, 2-color counters. We've got pattern blocks, dice, things like that. So you can link to all these different resources if you need them. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. You can click around in there and play with that. This is another one that she developed that's linked to different things, but again, mainly virtual manipulatives on these pages. You can also share these with your students or with your host teacher to help with homework, or if just the class isn't resourced with all of these things, you have access to them here. And then lastly, these are more tools. These are links to actual lesson ideas and activities. So again, just a fun thing to click around on. This is a hundreds chart, which we'll talk about in class. But I just wanted to tell you what these slides are because you're going to see them pop up a lot. And I also wanted to make them available to you now since things are kind of already getting started. This will become relevant for your talk about it presentations. And so this is also linked here. It will also be linked in that assignment. But again, just wanted to make sure it's here. I wanted to point out that it's here in this slide deck. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about the weekly flow of events, I want to talk about the big assignments. So these are not the only things we're going to do in class, but these are some of the bigger things. So you're going to do and I'm going to talk about these really quickly here, and we'll get into more detail later, but just to kind of like give you an overview. So the small group task, that's where you're going to be implementing something with a small group of students eventually. That's the goal there. A rehumanizing task, meaning that we're going to take something that is existing and try to make it more relevant. A whole group lesson plan, which can emerge in several different ways, but you're going to be planning that mainly with me and your host teacher. And then CMath activities and mock parent-teacher conference. This is kind of a throughout the semester assignment that's focused on one student, kind of tutoring one student. And then at the end, your final exam, for lack of a better term, is a mock parent-teacher conference with me where you act like the teacher and I act like the parent. Okay, so the small group task. So again, I'm going just in order here. The small group task is going to happen in 3 phases. You will first plan it in class in a very safe space. We'll plan it all together. It can be something we've done in class, or it can be a whole new activity if your host teacher has something they want you to do. You will practice in class with each other. So this is just a practice, like getting comfortable with the content of the assignment, asking questions, all of that kind of stuff. Then you will implement in the field with a small group of students, including your CMath student ideally, but it doesn't have to be. And if you absolutely have to, you could implement it just with your CMath student, but ideally a small group including them. And then the third part will be a reflection. I'll give you a template and everything, but this is just where you kind of like reflect on what happened and what went well specific to the domains that we're looking at, and then what you might do differently next time. So that's your small group task. It's kind of a phased assignment throughout the semester, but the main goal here is to implement with a small group and ask good questions around a well-chosen task. All right, the rehumanizing task. So this one, you're going to have a couple of different options, and it might seem a little more nebulous right now, but this one, you're going to either create a game based on what your students are interested in. So you might take a game that exists that they play and just revise it to make it more relevant to them. You are going to, or you can create a 3-act task. We'll talk more about what that is if you're not familiar with those. So that would be something where you can make take a 3-act task idea and just make it really relevant to them. Or you can just take a lesson plan that you may have taught or your host teacher taught, and you can change it to make it more relevant to your students. So rehumanizing, we mean taking something and making it as relevant to your students as possible. Then as part of that as well, so you'll create that thing and then you will submit that in a reflection. We're not going to implement this one unless you want to. But the idea here is just how can we modify things to make them the most relevant to our students instead of just taking a curriculum and implementing it. Okay. Then you'll have a whole group lesson plan. So this one is going to, again, emerge over time. That's why I have my sloth friend here. So we'll work together on how to plan this, how to implement it, but this will happen in your normal POP cycle and at the end of the semester. So I just wanted to throw out there that you will need to teach one whole group lesson that's math, at least adjacent. So it needs to incorporate some math somehow, even if it's with another subject area. All right. So the CMath curriculum is the last one I wanted to talk about. This is the one I talked about that's a kind of like a one-on-one tutoring type vibe with one student in your fieldwork. And the purpose of this is you're going to go through a series of sessions with them. They're not very long, 20 minutes maybe. You're going to pull them aside and take them through some activities. And the purpose here is to learn how to know what they know, basically, like analyze the student's thinking really deeply. And we're going to do that by learning about the student. So learning about their friends of knowledge. What are they interested in? What's their home life like? What kinds of things can you pull in from their life to make the math more relevant? We're going to engage them in problem solving tasks here. So learning how to teach through problem solving. And then also, again, how to emphasize their rights of the learner. So how to only speak when it makes sense to them, and how to say when they don't understand something, and how to explain something in a way that makes sense to them. So that's the purpose there, is to just go really in depth with one student instead of always focusing on analyzing a whole class worth of data. So we want you to get experiences in kind of all these different areas: individual, small group, whole group. Okay, so that's all I wanted to really talk about today. I'm sure that everything you've got going on this semester is probably a little bit overwhelming. So all I need you to do for the first week of class is to complete the Zavala This I Believe poem. You'll see that linked under the tab that says first day of school or first week of school, depending on where you click. There's a link directly to it. It's just a document you can make a copy of. Then I also have a Padlet where we can introduce ourselves. I think that'll help me just kind of get to know everybody. And you'll see I've put a template in there. And then if you have an opportunity to just peruse the syllabus, if you have any questions, bring them to class next week, and we will have an opportunity to to go over them. So that's all I really need for the first week of class. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all in person. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please do not hesitate to reach out to me anytime. I'm available through email. All of my contact information is on the Canvas page. So you should have good access to that. And I hope you guys have a great first week, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.